I'm the director of the Peugeot Center here at Lipscomb. The Peugeot Center is a part of the College of Engineering, and it's our responsibility to provide you with opportunities to use your engineering skills to help people who are really underserved, both domestically and internationally. We also have the responsibility to equip and prepare you for those opportunities. So today is going to be all about trying to give you a glimpse of what we have done, what it has done for other people, what we plan in the future, and how it benefits you both in your spiritual walk and in your part of your spiritual walk at your profession. I'd like for my colleague Caleb Meeks to take over here and direct what we're going to do from here on. Caleb is a brand new employee at the Peugeot Center, and his responsibility is the coordination of engineering mission projects. So you're going to see a lot of him in the future.
Okay. Oh man, about 10 years ago, I was a freshman mechanical engineering major and decided to go on a mission trip to Mozambique, Africa. But it wasn't an engineering trip. I wish we had what y'all have available to you. But of course, I was determined to sneak in my engineering skills, or what I thought of as skills at the time. And so one evening, I decided to build a water rocket and go out and shoot it off for some school children. So I got a water bottle and a tire valve, and couldn't find anything for fins, so I found this piece of brush that was kind of straight and taped it onto the bottle, kind of like a bottle rocket where there's the stick sticking out there. And then I head out to this soccer field at a local school, and slowly these children just kind of, they see this weird looking guy with this contraption, and they just kind of flock in. And by the time I get there, I have this sort of belt, almost like, some sort of a planet of children around me, 50 or so children. And they're just wondering, they don't recognize what I have in my hands. I have no way to tell them. They speak Portuguese. I barely speak English. So I have water, I have a pump. I'm just like, these kids are going to like this, I hope. So I'm out there, the sun's setting, the sand is just red, and I'm getting all red because of all the water. Anyways, I'm pumping. And, as the pressure gauge goes up, my heart's beating, I'm excited. They're probably excited, or maybe they're just like, this guy's crazy, what's going to happen? But you get to this certain pressure where it starts to kind of start spewing water, and it's time. So I unhook it, and I hold it out, and it was just, unscrew the cap situation and, hope for the best. So I point it at this guy and unscrew the cap, and they're all just watching, waiting for something to happen. They have no idea. And then all of a sudden, and my hand's just forced down, and it's just gone like a piece of magic. These kids had no idea what was coming. And so this collective, almost like an organic move of everybody going, away from me, kind of like one of those movies where the superheroes, and then you see the shockwave move out. It was a little bit like that, where these kids are terrified and in awe, and then they look up, and our golden rocket shining in the setting sun is soaring on high, and this is so awesome. And their little faces in awe, and then mine in changing from awe and happiness to slight worry as I realize at apogee that I have no re-entry plan. But I do have a target audience. This is going to end poorly, right? This is bad engineering. If I had only had a professor, coaching me along on this project, I probably would not have almost killed somebody. So this, my beautiful aerodynamically perfect contraption turns and it heads back towards the Earth, accelerating at 9.8 meters per second. And there's really nothing I can do. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, the worst part is that there is literally a stick careening down at these children. It's like this harpoon of death. My brilliant, innovative design for how I was going to keep this aerodynamic has turned into this horrible, horrible death trap for all these small children who have no idea what's about to happen. And so I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Take the bullet? Johnny, He's going to just take me out. But I don't have time for that. And then, sure enough, it falls, and this little school girl gets bonked on the head and kind of falls down, and everybody's just beat, like where my heart stops. And all the children look at this other child, and I'm thinking, I'm working at escape routes. I've heard about African mob justice. I'm thinking of these parents coming in. There's no suing there. It's just they take it out on the hide. And so I'm getting nervous for a beat there. And then it just breaks out into ridiculous peals of laughter from everybody. Even the kid that's hurt. And I'm kind of laughing too. Like, I'm so glad this turned out this way. Never again will I do this kind of thing. But it turned into a beautiful moment, thankfully, despite my engineering, where their joy became my joy. And as the sun set on that African red sand, their joy became my joy, and their delight became my delight. Little did I know at that point that God was later going to call me to work just a few hundred miles north in Tanzania. I spent the last 4.5 years in Tanzania on the coast there, where their joy became my joy, their delight became my delight, their life became my life, their discovery of God became my discovery of God. I had no idea that God was leading me back to that area. These trips that we're talking about with you today are pregnant with that potential for you. Take that seriously. You don't know what God's going to do with you. But you do know, you can anticipate, so that God will bring you to a spot where these people, these real people, their joy will become your joy. And their life will become your life. And their discovery of God will probably become your discovery of God. So, let's take a minute. Let me introduce David Rubio. There he is. Come on up. He's going to give us a devotional thought. And then we've got some more people to talk after that. David, would you mind also introducing
the next person?
The next person.
Be happy to.
Okay.
Well, be my joy. Thank you, Caleb. Like he said, I'm David Rubio. It's an honor for me to get an opportunity to do a devotional with you today. When I think about engineering, sorry about that. I actually was one of the thousands of people that drove past this last year as it developed during the school year. And I'm sure, I just hit the computer, so now it's gone. I don't know. Does anybody know how to get that back on there? I really want it back on. I'm going to do that. I'm here. I'm a local youth pastor. I work with high schoolers and middle school students. And students that I give my heart to for 7 years at the church where I work end up in seats like these, in lecture halls like this one, listening to professors like these, and doing projects that are similar to this one. Not all of them are engineering projects. But one of the things that I love about a school like Lipscomb, and one of the things that I hope to be a part of here with you today, is the mission of this institution is that as you learn how to engineer and as you learn how to do things in the world, that the things that you do fit into a kingdom context. And so I have just a very few minutes with you today, but I want to say that as I thought about this, Dr. Patterson asked me a few weeks ago to do this, and I said, yes, I'd love to. I think I'm available. And I got excited because I was thinking about the thing that was up on the screen earlier without anything in front of it, and how I didn't know what it was that started to take shape. I only knew that something was happening on the lawn of Lipscomb. And then I started to understand, as someone made me aware, that this was an engineering project. I don't even know where it is anymore. I just know that engineers like you were building something that was going to hopefully bless people in the name of Jesus. So here's what I want to do. I want to read a story to you. You all know it already, so this won't be the first time that you've heard it. But it goes like this. A man came on one occasion, an expert in the law, and as a matter of fact, to test Jesus. He said, "Teacher, what must I do to be saved?" Jesus said, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" And he answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and with all your mind and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, too." Jesus said, "You have answered correctly. If you do this, you will live." But the man wanted to justify himself, and so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" And Jesus told this story. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. And a Levite, too, did the same thing when he came to the place and saw him. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. He went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. He put the man on his own donkey, took him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper. He said, "Look after the man." And then he gave the man, he said, "Look after him, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any expenses that you may have." And then Jesus turned and he said, "Which of these was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" And the expert in the law, of course, correctly said, "The one who had mercy on him." And then Jesus says, "Go and do likewise." Jesus tells his followers, go and do likewise. And there's a couple of things he could have meant. One of them being, in order to find out who your neighbor is, go and get beaten up and robbed, and then see who helps you, and then love that person. Because that's literally the question. Who was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? But probably what Jesus meant was, go and do likewise. And as a youth pastor, I read this passage and I'm reminded that the Samaritan didn't teach a song. He didn't show a movie clip and then identify where's Jesus in this movie clip. He didn't teach a Devo. We don't even know that he talked to the person. There may have been no conversation. He may not have even known the person after he left. But he touched the kingdom as he did. And I'm excited that you have an opportunity this year in a tangible way that will be impossible to misunderstand because of the careful and expert guidance and tutelage from your leaders, expert in engineering and also in the life of Christ and what it means to follow him. It'll be impossible to miss that the doing this year that you engage in is going to touch the kingdom. In Jesus' name. So, go and do likewise. So I pray a blessing on you in Jesus' name. God, thank you for the students in this program. What power when we do likewise for you. In Christ's name, amen. It is my honor to present to you Mr. Kevin Colvett. Dr. Colvett?
No, absolutely not.
Kevin is my go-to person anytime I need to answer a question about water. And so Kevin is a good friend of mine. He is a disciple of Jesus Christ. His kids and his sons, his twin sons, and my son are very close friends. I think tomorrow morning we'll be praying together at 6:30 at a local coffee shop, and he's really smart. He's the punniest person I know, so keep count of how many puns occur. Did you prepare some puns?
No, I'm
Kevin Colvett, everybody! Kevin's going to be talking about
Well, David actually is my neighbor to carry on with his lesson. He lives just a little ways from me. I've been up underneath his house helping him with some water things before, and most likely I will be again, based off of the way we fixed it. But I wanted to talk with you. My name's Kevin Calvet. I am a professional engineer. I've been in the engineering world for actually going on about 20 years now, which is phenomenal to me. I'm increasingly being classified as the old guy, and I'm all right with that. There's only one alternative to getting old, and it's not a great alternative. But I went to school. I got my degree. I checked all the boxes. I went and got a good job, and I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. And I got to be about 30 years old, and I was sitting around going, there's got to be something more than this. There's got to be something more than this. And the next thing I knew, I was on a plane to Africa. And I was working in a place where they had a well and they needed to get some drip irrigation laid out. So I went and that's what I do, water pipes sorts of things. And so I thought I can help them out with that. And I did, and it was great. And I knew from the instant that I did that almost 12 years ago that my life was going to be different from that point forward. And it has been. Since that time, in 2008, I got involved with Lipscomb Engineering Missions. As they started to do some work in Central America. And lo and behold, a couple of years later, I found myself moving my family, my wife and my 3 boys, to Guatemala for a year, to go live in the mountains without electricity, without pavement for an hour and a half in any direction, way out in the sticks. And it was a wonderful, wonderful time. But the weird thing is that I was never the kid, I was never the person who went and painted houses on spring break. It never once crossed my mind to be a missionary until I was about 30 years old. I was very late to the ball game. And I wonder, sometimes I beat myself up over that because I look at you guys and I'm like, man, they've got a 10, 15-year head start on that. But I think that God prepares us in different ways at different times, and that's what we have. That's what we deal with, and that's what we work with. But I did find that over the past 10 years that my work overseas in Africa, in Central America, in Haiti, and Dominican Republic, that whether or not that makes me a better person doing that, that's kind of between me and God and for a higher power to determine the inherent goodness of doing that. But let me talk to you engineer to engineer for a second. I am convinced that doing that sort of work makes you a better engineer. And that's a component of it that hey, we're at Lipscomb University and we are spreading the gospel, and we're trying to go and do likewise, like David was saying. But I do believe in my heart that doing work in places like that makes you a better engineer, because it puts you in situations where you have to problem solve. It puts you in situations that are not familiar to you. It puts you in situations where you have to take the equations and make practical applications to them in ways that you never dreamed about when going through a textbook. And some of the best people, best engineers I know are in this room, learned how to do that by mixing concrete on the ground, by ordering steel plates for bridges on the fly, and putting their engineering skills to work doing that. You guys are extremely lucky to have team leaders like Rick, like Stephen and Kirsten, like Mallory. They have been somewhat corrupted by working with me on some things, but they have done a fantastic job at not just learning how to be a Christian, but learning how to be an engineer and apply their Christian principles to that. So let me talk to you as a potential employer for a second. We're hiring several people right now at the company that I work, and we have stacks of resumes about that high. And you're at some point in a year or 2 or 3, your name is going to be on a resume that's floating across somebody's desk. And you have to look at the ways that you're going to differentiate yourselves from the competition, because there's a lot of smart people out there. There's a lot of people that went to great institutions. There's a lot of people that can write a fancy cover letter. But there's not a lot of people that can talk about how they problem solved on a bridge in Honduras, or a radio repeating system in Honduras, or a water system in Guatemala. There's not that many people that can lay that out and talk about that. And let me tell you, that is something that does differentiate you. And that's something that should be on your resume. That's something that you should brag about. That's something that you should soak up every second of that you have, not just on the trip, but on the preparation for that. Because on the preparation for that, you're going to learn budgeting, you're going to learn scheduling, you're going to learn project management, you're going to learn how to work on a team. And that's the kind of stuff you're not going to learn very, very hands-on out of a textbook. You're going to learn that by working with each other, by working with Christian mentors, by working with people who can say, if we do this right, this will be a blessing to these people. That's a very different outcome than if we do this right, we're going to pass the test. If we do this right, we're going to be a blessing to these people. The stakes are much, much higher with what you'll be doing on these trips right here. So if I had 7 hours or 8 hours, I would fill all of that up. But let me just offer that encouragement to you to soak this up. Don't make this trip and the preparation for it, don't make it something that you do in your spare time. Okay? Don't make it something that you try to squeeze in, that you put off to the last minute. Don't look at it as a burden. If you look at it as a burden, find something else to do. Okay? If it's a burden to you, find something else to do. God will work on you. You might be 10 or 15 years down the road like I was. That's fine. But I do believe that this very well could be the highlight of your academic career. It could very well be the beginning of your professional career, and it very well may be the beginning of your ministry career too. So look at it as all of those things. It's very, very important, but it's also very, very fun as well. You guys are in for a treat. I think that are we going straight to the student?
We're going to have
students
walk up. Thank you so much.
So there you go.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Kevin and David. We're going to have a couple of students, Ryan Luttrell and Taylor Sanders, both juniors. One's an ME, one's a CE. And why don't you kick it off, Ryan? Just share some of your experiences, and then we'll move over to Taylor.
So,
And also use the mic, unlike what I did, because of recording it.
gotcha. So I was asked to share my experience with Lipscomb Engineering. After my freshman year, I went to Guatemala and we did a water project. And then this past May, I went back to Guatemala, the same place, the Old Pond Valley, and we did a water project, and we also built a stove for two widows. And my mission trip experience starts much before Lipscomb Engineering, and I went with my youth group on a lot of trips where we would do relational ministry like VBS for kids and working with orphans and stuff of that nature, and some manual labor, which is great. And I don't want to discourage you if you're doing things like that. I think we need those things, but getting to Lipscomb and participating in the engineering missions was such a blessing in my life, and it is more than I thought it could be. I knew I wanted to come to Lipscomb. A major reason of that was because of the engineering missions, and I believe that God has a purpose for us in His kingdom. He has a purpose for each one of you, and whether you're going to stick with engineering, or you're a civil, or you're a mechanical, or an electrical, for each one of us, He has given us certain gifts and certain abilities and certain experiences that He can use to bless us, and bless, more importantly, others through us. And so there are tons of reasons that I would encourage you to go on a mission trip, specifically an engineering mission trip. you just learn so much when you're trying to engineer a stove and you have no idea how big the slab is poured. If nothing else, it teaches you the value of communication, because there is none until you get there. And we have no idea how big our slab for our stove is. You learn so many things about. When I went back, we revisited the water system I did my first year, and we went to a particular house where the tanks we had designed were just chopped in half and no longer being used the way we intended it for them. So you learn so many things about engineering in particular, you learning on the fly, solving problems as they arise, and all those things. But more importantly, I think one of the biggest things, the reason you should go on a mission trip is because God has blessed us with these skills. It's our duty to give back. And so often in the Bible, Jesus's ministry was accompanied with physical healing. And we have the opportunity to do that. In my engineering class today, engineering materials, Dr. Gregory said something about engineers go unnoticed because if we're doing something right, then no one's thinking about us. And it's been said that engineers have saved more lives than the medical field. And the places that we go are really hurting physically, and we have such an opportunity to bless those. And through that, we get to go back to these places where we have ministries, and it starts with the physical healing, but more often than not, the more important thing is the spiritual healing that these people are receiving. And it's been so cool. Like, yes, you have this project that you're focused on, but some of the best, most memorable times from the mission trips that I've been on have been getting to know the people and getting to interact with people that are of completely different culture, of completely different stations in life, yet we serve the same God. And it just gives you a huge sense of how big our God is, and how he can do miraculous things. So I would encourage you to think about doing a mission trip. Talk with some of the people up here. Talk to me. Talk to anyone, and really think about doing it. So.
Like Ryan, this was not my first mission trip. This is actually my third trip to Honduras, the first two being in high school with church groups and actually through school. But it was just something about this trip that opened a lot of doors for me. I was kind of to a point one night, I guess it was back during the spring. I was having trouble with calculus. I was having trouble with physics. And I was in a really, really rough place. I guess mentally, I was done. And I just decided to go out, and I went for a walk. I walked all the way around campus. And I walked past Hughes, and I noticed that there's people out on the front lawn. And I was like, what's going on there? And one of the guys in this picture, Ryan Gatsey, some of y'all know him, he was out there, and we became good friends because of having other classes together in concrete canoe. And I went out there and I asked him, I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We're preparing to build the bridge for Honduras." I said, What do you mean? What's all that about? He started telling me about it and kind of explaining me to what was going to happen and the things and what him and Ethan prepared for to go and to build this bridge. And they said, we're needing people. He said, it's going to be a huge undertaking for us. Well, I said, okay, what can I help you with right now? I said, I'm just walking around. What do you need help with? So I helped Ryan and Ethan set up the scaffolding for that bridge that night. And I stayed there long enough, and Chris showed up. He's a gentleman in the green shirt. And he showed up, and Ryan said, hey, Chris, we got another one to go with us. He said, I've already got your ticket bought. And I guess that was kind of the deciding factor for me to go. Being my third trip, some of the thoughts didn't go through my head that are probably going through y'all's, like, how am I going to pay for it? Do I really need to go? The biggest thing is pray about it. Lift it up to God, and if it's supposed to happen for you, it'll happen. My first mission trip that I went to on Honduras, it closed. Like, they stopped taking people for it. I showed interest in it, and it was opened back up for me. And I just feel that the biggest thing is lifting it up to God, letting Him take care of it, and everything will work out for you. Just like with the bridge, we ran into some problems. We overcame them because we had faith in God and we had our faith in our knowledge, and it all worked out. So I just encourage you to pray about mission trips. And if you feel like you're being pulled to go on one, you need to go on it. It'll open your eyes to what your future will be. It'll open your eyes to what you want to do with your life, whether you want to build bridges, whether you want to do water projects, whether you want to do satellite repeaters. I mean, just anything. I just encourage y'all to do it. So.
Thank you, brothers. All right, so we're going to hear about these upcoming projects. We've got a few people here. They're going to be presenting their projects to you, and listen close, and then you'll have a chance later on to sign up for these. But let's go ahead and get started with Rick Forehand, who is, hopefully you can introduce yourself real quick, and then the rest of y'all just introduce yourselves as you come up.
Thank you. Hey guys, I'm Rick Forehand. I graduated about 4 years ago, 2011, and I now work at Barch Wagner, an engineer over there. And I'm the team leader of the Honduras team to Predazon, where we're installing a radio repeater there. Predazon is one of Lipscomb Mission's oldest partners, if not the oldest partner for Lipscomb engineering missions. In the past, we've done several projects, including other radio repeaters, sanitary systems, and several medical missions. And they're focused on holistic community development, mainly focused on providing for the healthcare needs of Eastern Honduras. And now they have expanded their territory into a region called Colmy, which is, if you can imagine, it's a better part of Middle Tennessee, just all rainforest. And they have several clinics over there, and they're wanting to expand communications to there. So our main objective is to build a radio repeater to where they can communicate with between their base and all these outlying rural clinics. And the project is going to be happening in November, so I know it's very, very short notice, but we still have plenty of availability for the trip. It's going to be a very short project. It's going to be November 20th through 25th, and that's it. Yeah.
Sign up, that you can sign up for information today since it is such short notice. So we will go through the normal application process. So they'll be passed around, so if you're interested, sign up while it's passed around, or come up and sign up at the end today.
I think I'm next. My name is Kirsten Dodson. I am an alumni and a graduate student in Vandy. Well, alumni from here, graduate student at Vandy now. My husband and I, my husband Stephen and I will be leading a trip to Guatemala. We will be working with Atakai, which is one of our newer partners, unlike Predison. We will be building a bridge in May, and we are excited to have you guys come with us. It's about a 30-foot bridge. We don't know a whole lot about it yet, but we have it ready and are waiting for people to jump on and work on it. And John, you're next.
So I think most of you know me, or the freshmen that don't yet know me will know me soon. You'll cycle through my session of freshman lab. I'm Dr. Hudson. This is kind of a unique program. It's going to be about a week long. It's a robot camp, and I've got to give due credit to Dr. Nordstrom and Ginger Reasonover for coming up with the idea to do this. For those of you that don't know, Lipscomb does 4 to 5 robot camps at Lipscomb University during the summer. Kids of ages from about 6, 7? What's the minimum age, you guys that helped? 7? Okay. Up to about high school, different camps, increasing complexity up to doing programming and designing robots. So what we did this summer is we partnered with the Martha O'Brien Center, which is in East Nashville, which is in the Casey Place projects. Okay, so this is a little unique because it's an in-town, in Nashville mission opportunity. We take a week, we take Robot Camp on the road, we take all of our stuff there, and we put on Robot Camp for kids that really don't have a lot of opportunities to see kind of these cool camp-like experiences that a lot of you had. So a lot of you probably grew up with computers or erector sets or cool Lego sets or electronics kits, things like that. A lot of these kids, and some of them are pretty smart, really smart actually, and they haven't had the opportunity to kind of engage their creativity and really apply themselves to things that are kind of cool engineering things, like the opportunities that a lot of us had that got us interested in engineering. So we take that on the road there. We'll be looking at what week we will be doing that. It will be during summer. So if you've got an internship, you can get a week off and come, or if you're in the area, certainly it's a good opportunity if you don't have the ability to go overseas, or do both, because they're all good opportunities for those of you that haven't been in a place like that. It is a cultural experience, and you learn a lot that people just in this country do not have a lot of the opportunities that many of us and most of us have had. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mallory Clancy. I work in the missions department actually as a mission coordinator, so I'm also the coordinator for these trips. I did not graduate from Lipscomb. I have a bachelor's and master's from the University of Florida in environmental engineering. But I've been going on Lipscomb mission trips since I was a student at Florida. So I was lucky enough to get involved as a different student at a different school. I will be leading one of possibly 2 undecided trips at this point. So they will be assessment trips in the sense that we would be doing sort of an assessment data information gathering trip this summer, and then it would be a project that would then be implemented sometime next year. Assessment trips still involve work, design possibilities, and stuff like that, so there'll be the opportunities for that. But just the way these work, sometimes it takes longer to lock in where you're going and what you're doing. So it could be either in Honduras with HOI or a potential partner we have in Haiti, or maybe one of other options. So that will be on your application to select. And then, so that's my trip. I'm going to talk about the application process and kind of where to go from here. So you've heard 4 options today. Mine could be 1 or 2, so 4 to 5 options of trips that you can participate in this year. So where to go from here? So if you have questions and you're not ready to apply, you can find more information on an email that will be sent out to all students. You can email Dr. Patterson. You can email, pretty much talk to any of your professors and they'll tell you who to get in touch with. But you could also email me and I will get you in touch with that person. My email is mallory.clancy@lipscomb, but if you look up Mission Center, you'll find me. Okay, so if you're interested in getting involved and you're ready to apply, the application will be sent out in an email to all engineering students sometime next week, hopefully at the beginning of the week. It will also be on the missions website under engineering missions. And on the application, it will ask you some questions about yourself, and it will also have the 4 or 5 trips to choose from. So you will prioritize the trips in order from 1 to 4. Of which ones you're interested in, and then based on the number and the varying types of applicants we get, we'll place you on a team, because some teams we want to have a variation of year, we want to have a variation of majors, and we want to make sure we fit specific people to specific teams. If you're a little bit nervous about the money issue, the fundraising issue, each of the different trips have different costs. So John's will be local. It'll definitely be a cheaper option. But don't be discouraged about the money. We send almost 900 people on trips every year with Lipscomb. They all manage to raise the money. We'll have a lot of resources for you in the missions department and through the engineering contacts. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, don't let that keep you from applying. I would say pray about it. Like Taylor said, that was great advice. Make sure you feel called to go and that's not a burden. But definitely apply if you're wanting to go, and don't let money be a factor, because God can overcome any of those things. That's my next topic. SALT credit. You can also get SALT credit for going on a mission trip. So I know that's a point for a lot of you. You all have that requirement. And time commitment, you may have a team meeting once a month until about Christmas. This is for a summer trip. And then meeting times will increase. So you may meet twice a month until about spring break. And then right before the trip, you'll probably meet more often, once every week, depending on the trip. So flexibility is key with that. I think that was all I had to talk about application process. If you were interested in the Predazon trip and didn't get a chance to fill out that sign up, whoever has them after this is over, if you can just bring it to the front. And if you're interested, come to the front and make sure you talk to Rick if you want some more information, or any of us at the end of this. So thank you guys so much for your attention. You've been great. We really appreciate it.